In this class we're going to look at the requirements for effective learning. Specifically, we should be able to identify different types of learning and how it impacts on individual learning capabilities, and also outline the requirements for effective learning. Individual learning capabilities are dependent on their learning styles and the way their trainer has arranged the learning materials and resources. So individual capabilities to learn depends on their learning styles, depends on their interest in the topic as well, and their motivations. It also depends on the trainer and how the learning material and resources are organized and presented. So learning is complex. It's made up from several components, and ideally all of these parts should work correctly and appropriately if learning is going to be achieved efficiently and effectively. Learning can only be effectively delivered if individuals are willing to learn, as I said earlier. So the individuals must be motivated to learning and they must be willing to apply themselves. And the individuals are willing to grow through experience. In other words, the individuals want to learn, they want to have experiences, and they want to learn through experiences, as well as perhaps learning in the more traditional way of reading books and looking at ideas and discussing ideas with colleagues and with managers and with trainers and so on. But they might want to have experiences and reflect on the experience and learn in a more experiential fashion. The individuals should also try to learn from feedback. Feedback perhaps from trainers saying how well they're doing on the course, or where they could improve, or where changes can be made that will benefit the learner in their process of learning. And also their expectations must be realistic. Learners' expectations must be realistic. If they think that they can achieve a task very quickly when other people take a long time, the chances are they've got it very wrong. Their expectations should be to follow the course, understand each component of what is being delivered, understand the logic of what's been said, and then reflect on what's been said and what's been delivered, and perhaps derive questions later for follow-up sessions which may be posed, which will be based on the material and which will therefore be logical and also be more respected by colleagues and by the trainers, because the questions have been well thought out. So people's expectations must be realistic. Now the types of learning, well, there could be informal learning, workplace learning, there could be self-managed learning, there can be continuous learning and development. So here we're looking at 4 types, and these are particularly relevant in the context of training and company-related activities for trainee development and for personnel development. We'll start by looking at informal training, or informal learning I should say, sorry. Informal learning begins the day you were born and continues throughout your life. Informal learning is what we do all the time. It's a continuous process. There are no guidelines, no formulas or schooling for this type of learning. Learning to count, learning the alphabet, or brushing your teeth. The chances were you didn't have classes on those. You may have had some tuition and guidance from family members or from friends, but essentially there was very little guidance and very little structure to the course on how to brush your teeth. So informal learning is what happens to us all the time. We have experiences, we reflect on the experiences, we learn from the experiences. When a similar situation arises in the future, we think back to our experiences and what happened in the past, and so we are all the time learning from these experiences. They're not, generally speaking, big mind-blowing experiences. They're day-to-day experiences, but they are what help us get through life. Informal learners are highly motivated individuals who are eager to learn and challenge themselves. It's a desire to know or understand something. So a lot of people have experiences and simply do not take on board the experience. Other people want to know why. How did it happen? What caused it? How can we prevent it, or how can we encourage it? What was its nature? What was its rationale? A lot of people have questions, and these are the really effective informal learners. These are the ones who are taking all the experiences around them and trying to understand the experiences and gain greater insights because of their understanding of the experiences. Other people with the same experiences don't wish to analyze or think deeply about it. It's just something that happened, and they are not going to maximize, they're not going to be very efficient informal learners. Learning does not only take place in a learning environment or institutions like colleges or in training centres. Learning happens everywhere. It happens right throughout our lives, and it happens anywhere. On the way to work, the same as at work. So informal learning is a process of life. It's what happened to us all the time. And it's how we understand what's happening to us, how we rationalize it, how we think about it, how we analyze it. That's what makes us informal learners. But we must have the interest and the application to try to understand in order to maximize on this form of learning. Now, workplace learning. Well, workplace learning occurs, as it suggests, within the workplace. Individuals have the opportunity to acquire new skills and knowledge either on the job or through formal courses. So this is a situation where the employer looks at the workforce, looks at their skills, does an analysis of the skills of the workforce, and tries to decide if training programs will make them more efficient, make them perhaps more motivated, will communicate the corporate message clearly to the workforce. Are training programs required? So workplace learning is actually very important. It's important because people who leave college or university or school or whatever, generally speaking, they have generic skills. They can read and write and do arithmetic and do other things, but these are general skills. Companies may require specific skills, the ability to operate a particular machine and perhaps operate it to very fine tolerances. Now that is a particular skill, and that may have to be trained, but it may have to be trained within the company. It's not very realistic to assume that everyone in the population has that ability. So the company may have to invest in its workforce in order to teach them how to be effective and meet the company's requirements. So it's workplace learning. Staff are vital to any organization, and it's important that the organization ensure that there are no skill gaps. Therefore, training opportunities are important to enhance employee capabilities. If we think about that, if there are no staff within the company, then there is no company. Companies may operate with very few staff, but they still need staff. And there is still the issue, the staff that work for the company, have they got the appropriate skills? Are they as efficient as can be? Do their skills need updating? Do they need to acquire new skills? So it's important for the company to invest in people, perhaps the same as the company would invest in machinery or in capital. Here we're talking about a human resource as opposed to perhaps a capital resource, and the human resource needs investment. It needs to be maintained and it needs to be improved. Generally speaking, people like the opportunity to learn in the workplace. There are instances written up where there has been resistance to certain types of training and issues about the introduction of new technologies. But by and large, workforces tend to go along with training because it's in their interest. They will have greater job security as a consequence, and perhaps higher wages or higher salaries in the future also. Self-managed learning. Well, here self-managed learning is solely based on the individual. You are responsible for your own learning and the management of resources. This is unusual, but it does happen. Some individuals are highly motivated, more highly motivated perhaps than others, and are determined to succeed. These individuals are the ones that are more effective in managing their learning. These are people who have programs set out for themselves, learning needs that must be acquired. They must have the ability to do certain things, and they're not participating with others, and it's not being forced on them by anybody else. They simply have a desire to learn. They have a desire to improve themselves. And this could range from just simply learning another language, or understanding computers, or understanding how machinery operates, and it depends. But they are self-managed learning. They are learning as per their own guidelines. In self-managed learning, individuals are subconsciously making decisions on what they learn and how they will learn in order to maximize their learning experience. So they're trying to work out what they will learn and how they will make the most of it, how they will maximize their learning experience. So they're not wasting their time. They are self-motivated. They are attempting to make the most of the time and the resources that they're putting in. They will also look to when and where they learn and why they are learning, looking at their future goals and aspirations. They may have private ambitions. So in order to achieve those ambitions, they need certain skills. They might need a second language, as I said earlier, and certain computing skills, and the ability to drive, and also the ability to use some sort of equipment or particular pieces of equipment, or need to have specialist knowledge of specialist markets or whatever it is. They have an agenda. They are working towards a plan. So they will decide when to learn, what to learn, and they will know how to apply it. Now, individuals that are effective in managing their own learning, well, learn from others and experience. That's the most basic form. Learning from experience is the experiential approach, trying to work out what happened, why did it happen, what caused it, how can it be avoided or promoted in the future. But also talking to others, getting others' experiences, and trying to map out the best way forward based on what's been found out from talking to others and from experience. Reading and getting involved in projects, providing it all leads to what the individual wants to achieve. So associating with projects, but the projects themselves are a means to the end for the individual. They want the experience of working on the project because it's going to promote their overall ambition. They should aim to achieve secondments and coaching and mentoring if possible, because these are good ways of picking up experiences and getting on their CV their achievements. So the fact that they've attended short courses, or they've attended some training programs, or they have had some coaching in a certain area, or they've been mentored by somebody who's had a lot of experience in the area. This all promotes their ambition, their overall ambition, and they're able to self-manage their learning by adding in these components when and where they're appropriate, so as to build up the full picture of what they're trying to achieve. Now, continuous learning and development. Well, continuous learning occurs throughout one's life. We are always learning and developing our skills and knowledge. Doing so helps us to adapt to changing demands of society. So we are constantly almost evolving in a societal sense. We're learning the way society is changing, we're adapting to it, we're gaining new experiences all the time of new technologies, new ways of doing things. So we are constantly improving and constantly learning. In order to challenge and develop ourselves, we must first assess ourselves, our experiences and our potential. But of course, if we are going to measure to what extent we are learning, we must have a baseline. We must know where we stand now. What are our skills, our abilities? And these should be benchmarked. We should have qualifications. They may be school-leaving qualifications, or a college course, or a degree, or whatever it is. We should have some benchmark, and then look at what we're planning to achieve and measure the difference, measure what we've achieved, and add that to our starting point being the qualifications we started off with. Continuous learning is also very important for organizational success. Organizations must be willing to learn and adapt to changing economic and business environments. Well, organizations can't stand still. Static organizations will be killed off. Products are changing. Customer demands and requirements are changing. The competitive environment is changing. The global situation is changing. Now, companies who do not adapt will go under, chances are. It's only companies that are flexible and can change and learn from their experiences are the ones who will survive. Initiatives and methods of continuous learning? Well, the initiatives could be asking questions for clarity in order to challenge yourself. So making sure you understand the material by asking deep questions, asking questions about what was meant by such a statement or what's meant in the context of some situation. Reflect on feedback from senior staff. Seek the feedback from senior staff. Ask them to assess how well you've done, or what were your failings, or where could it be improved, so that the next time round a better performance can be offered. Take an interest in training programs, courses offered at work and at other facilities. Always watch out for perhaps short courses or particular training programs, and see if you can get onto those programs, and if you're allowed on, if the employer would sponsor you or let you sit in on programs, because it's a way of developing your skills and developing your overall profile. It makes you more attractive in the labour market. Being involved in opportunities in which you observe or shadow experienced members of staff, that's a good way of learning. Finding people who can do the job well, who are dedicated to the job, who have got a good reputation. If it's possible to shadow those people, to work alongside them and to observe them, then that is a good way of learning a particular task. It reflects well on you as well. It reflects well because it shows that you are interested and prepared to put yourself out and make an effort to learn in this way. Being able to conduct a SWOT, a strength, weakness, opportunities and threats analysis, and discover your capabilities, your areas for improvement, and deriving goals and aims for yourself. See if you can work out a SWOT analysis of yourself. What are your strengths? What are your weaknesses? What are your opportunities? What are your threats? And see if some overall picture emerges to suggest what is the best way forward. What strengths can be further improved? What weaknesses can be reduced or ameliorated or even eliminated? What opportunities can be grasped? And what are the threats? What weaknesses have you got that perhaps the market will not favour, will sidestep you because you've got a weakness, that's a threat. Perhaps other people have got their programs developed better. They have got better profiles and better capable of meeting threats on the environment. So identify your learning style in order to maximize your learning capabilities. Look at your learning styles and attempt to maximize your learning capabilities. Now the conclusion, well, learning can only be effective if one has a desire to obtain knowledge and learn new skills and enhance capabilities. So you have to have the desire to learn, or it's never going to happen. The predominant factor in an individual's capability to learn is through their level of self-motivation. Self-motivation is essential. They must be prepared to self-motivate in order to achieve. They must drive themselves. They can't always be pushed by someone else. The four types of learning are connected together to maximize individual learning experiences. However, can only be effective if there is a willingness to learn. So the styles that we've identified here are connected. They are linked, but they will only succeed if the individual really wants to learn, if the individual really wants to apply him or herself to make improvements, to to learn from situations and to grasp opportunities as they come. That concludes this session. So I'm going to cover in this one. So let's leave it at that and say thank you for watching.